I am recording this short video to introduce the basic concepts of post-labor economics in a simple, approachable term, accessible to those who are not economists or policymakers, but are still curious, excited, perhaps concerned, and keen to learn more and perhaps get involved in this emerging movement. In this video, I will start with painting a picture of the amazing future that we could create for ourselves. Then I will speak about the path towards that future, the transition that we find ourselves in now. And finally, I will make the case of why I think there is elevated urgency for us to act now and at all levels, from individuals all the way to nations. So let me start by saying that I am a chronic optimist, and for a very good reason. I believe that we live in the most incredible moment in human history. The technological advancements we have been experiencing over the past few years have absolutely widened the spectrum of potential futures for us like never before. These potential futures include some truly fantastical scenarios that are becoming real at an incredible pace. Things like solving maths, or solving and inventing new physics, biochemistry, and medicine, computationally unlocking and curing cancers and all other diseases, effectively achieving the longevity escape velocity as Ray Kurzweil speaks about. With these technological breakthroughs applied across other scientific and engineering fields, we can expect exponential improvements in all other domains of human endeavor. From automated, intelligent, and autonomous extraction of raw materials and mineral resources to transportation, manufacturing, distribution, R&D, and innovation. On a personal front, intelligent solutions that improve our daily lives, from being our life agents and companions to helping us perform physical activities, even generating passive income for us. We are literally within an eyesight of this age of hyperabundance, where proliferation of intelligence that is too cheap to meter, autonomy, agency, and automation creates incredible new wealth and life improvements at an incredible scale, at an incredible pace, making most goods, services, and experiences available at a fraction of their current cost equivalents, and therefore making them accessible and available to all. We can now see that scenario as a rational destination within the realm of our newly possible futures. And it is perhaps only one or few decades away. Perhaps we will reach it even sooner. We should be very excited about this. We could be the last generation of humans who lived in the world of scarcity. This is a very big deal. But this positive outcome is by no means guaranteed. This expanded spectrum of our possible futures includes some more unpleasant scenarios if we get this wrong. The choice is ours to make still, and the stakes are gigantic. This is the moment for humanity to come together and shine. This is why I'm spending time and energy to talk about this better future, but also to raise awareness of the likely perils along the way, question the courses of action being taken, propose and discuss concrete ideas and solutions that can help us get there, both on a personal level, professional level, organizational level, subnational, national, and international fronts. This is essentially what this emerging field of post-labor economics is solving for: a successful transition from the current state of world of scarcity into a better state of the world of abundance for all. And at this moment, we are in the opening stages of this transition. Most people can sense it. So let's unpack what's driving this transition so as we can better understand it. And it is only by increasing our depth of understanding of the root cause that we can hope to design and implement the correct set of solutions and interventions across our highly complex system, really, that underpins our civilization. So here is the big picture. A modern, successful, liberal democratic society operates under a basic social contract where humans exchange labor for compensation, and that compensation we then use to buy the goods and services and experiences that are necessary for our short-term sustenance, but also, of course, long-term prosperity. This basic social contract has been one of the primary glues that has kept our society together, functioning, and moving forward. Well, today, as these rapid advancements in technology and automation threaten to displace the need for human labor, and to do that across much of the economy, and to do it in a foreseeable future, this social contract is under increasing pressure. And that's the essence of the problem. We need solutions that will guide us through this transition and into that better future where the newly generated wealth and prosperity that has been generated through these advancements in AI and automation and productivity will benefit the whole society. The future in which human labor is decoupled from productivity. That's what we are facing. That's where we are heading. And therefore, when human labor is no longer needed as the primary source of income for most families. In other words, we need a different, new social contract, and we need it fast. So let's set the stage by introducing a few concepts that can help us think through the moment that we now find ourselves in. Before I do, a big shout out to David Shapiro, who spent the past few years delving deeply into this topic, conducting the hard work of methodical research, coming up with many of these concepts that I will share next, and popularizing the subject. David has emerged as a leading voice in the post-labor economic movement, and I would highly recommend and encourage you to follow David and support his work, both on Substack and on his YouTube channel. All right, so let's start with the very basics. Humans bring 4 intrinsic capabilities to the labor market. That's our strength, our dexterity, our intelligence, and our empathy. Those are the 4 things that we uniquely contribute to the labor market across all of the types of work pretty much throughout history. But also throughout that history, we have been constantly inventing tools and technologies that improve our lives. We develop tools to accomplish our tasks better, faster, cheaper, or safer. And history teaches us that whenever we develop tools or technologies that can perform our tasks better, faster, cheaper, and safer, such tasks gradually get replaced by those tools and technologies. And in some cases, all of the need for human labor of these tasks will disappear. Out of the four of our intrinsic contributors, strength, intelligence, dexterity, and empathy, strength was the first that first got amplified by our tools and then ultimately replaced by our technology. The first industrial revolution, with the invention and deployment of steam engine, was that first mass at scale replacement of human power, human strength by technology. In other words, steam power solved for the need for human and animal power. And as a result, much of the strength work has been simply replaced by steam-powered mechanization. And these are our first factories, steamships, steam locomotives. At that time, we could say the world has reached the age of thermal abundance. We were generating extreme quantities of extra calories that then fueled our progress through industrialization. This was the first industrial revolution. Now, compounded, this effect of technology displacing the need for human labor can transform whole industries and societies, with one industry effectively disappearing and giving way to new industries that will include new jobs. And this is what is called creative disruption. Examples are plenty, from horses and horseback buggies being replaced by automobiles, to more recently switchboard operators being replaced by automatic switchboards. And in these days, today, graphical designers and software developers being replaced by generative AI tools and systems and coding platforms. Technology is so useful because it also allows us to produce goods and services at scale. The more you produce, the lower the marginal cost of each additional produced unit. In other words, technology is always deflationary. And this is what generates wealth and prosperity in a modern capitalist free market economy. Automation then further accelerates this effect. This is why Henry Ford managed to make his Model T so affordable and yet profitable for his business. So we need both technology and automation to continue generating wealth that fuels our economies and our prosperity. As technology and automation produce more and better goods and services cheaper, new wealth is generated, and it is this wealth that then creates additional demand for goods and services and new services. So it is this new demand that then creates opportunities for new industries to emerge with new and novel jobs. This is that creative part of the creative disruption concept. The destruction part in this scenario is where the old industries, and sometimes all of them, along with the jobs, lifestyles, livelihoods, and communities, can be upended and could disappear. So historically, the intervention in these circumstances has been to upskill the displaced workers and point them towards these new industries and these new jobs and these new opportunities that this newly created wealth, newly created demand generated. So while we were going through creative disruption or destruction, the basic social contract continued to be preserved. Well, in 2025, we find ourselves at the beginning of a major industrial revolution, which is now driven by artificial intelligence, rapid automation, agency, and autonomy. We are now living through our version of creative destruction. But this time, things are actually different. There are many good reasons why, and I'm going to now proceed to explain 8 of those reasons that I have identified as causing this industrial revolution to be different. Number 1, we are, for the first time in our species history, creating technologies with abilities we would recognize as intelligence, which is, remember, one of the 4 intrinsic human contributions to the labor force. So now, like with strength in the past, we are facing a real scenario where these intelligent systems could perform the knowledge and intellectual work that we do and do it better, faster, cheaper, or safer than us. And even if we are not fully there today, most people who follow the industry closely agree that this scenario is very likely, and it's very likely in the short term. Number 2, advanced Western economies are predominantly service-based. And these service economies, therefore, mostly rely on a knowledge worker. Knowledge workers use intelligence to deploy their knowledge in order to accomplish their tasks. So many of the service jobs, of course, also require empathy and dexterity and some strength, but not all. The unique and defining trait of knowledge worker is actually that intelligence. Therefore, with the invention and proliferation of artificial intelligence, and quite frankly, I don't think that the term artificial intelligence is the right term for what we are living and observing. I'm thinking that maybe digital intelligence or silicon intelligence could be a better term, or alien intelligence for that matter. We now face a direct challenge to some of our most unique human traits, which is intelligence and empathy right after it. And those are the foundations of our current service economies. Number 3, early indicators are that artificial intelligence will soon surpass humans in many cognitive tasks: speed, precision, memory and recollection, access to vast amounts of data and information and its processing, research, analysis, problem solving. Technologies do not need to be perfect to trigger creative disruption. They simply need to be marginally, objectively, and reliably better, or faster, or cheaper, or safer for a rational actor to prefer them to the alternative. And the sentiment is, the expectation is that for most of these cognitive tasks, analytical tasks, research tasks, intelligent tasks, our artificial intelligence systems will very soon be at least marginally better, faster, cheaper, or safer than human equivalent performance. Number 4, artificial intelligence is emerging as a general technology. General technologies are those inventions that have wide applicability, like the wheel, like electricity, like telecommunications. This means that artificial intelligence will have simultaneous impact across all aspects of our society and all domains of our economy, regardless of industries, organizational types, sizes, and geographies. AI will be omnipresent, just like electricity is. Number 5, artificial intelligence is no longer just a tool. The main distinction is that a tool is passive by nature. Tools do not perform things on their own. They need us to utilize them. A human is an agent that activates and utilizes a tool, right? However, artificial intelligence systems are already capable of acting as agents themselves. They are already capable of taking somewhat independent action under our direction, but soon they will be able to independently and autonomously exercise full agency, from identifying novel problems and asking novel questions to taking initiative to develop answers, making decisions, and taking actions. So, this is a very, very different equation altogether. It is important to appreciate, therefore, that for the first time in our history, we have created something beyond a tool. We have created a truly independent, intelligent agent. Number 6, artificial intelligence is already on a path of recursive improvement, which will very likely evolve into self-improvement. And this is likely the most impactful, transformative, and unknown of all of its capabilities. No one can really predict with certainty what will this mean to us. Self-improving loop could put advanced AI systems at an exponential improvement trajectory, where we could soon be dealing with entities that are hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of times more intelligent than we are. We simply do not have approximate models to help us project what this might mean. A good and somewhat tragic proxy is to observe how we have been treating animals whom we consider to be less intelligent than us, and yet the quantitative and qualitative difference between IQ of a human and a dog, or a human and chickens, is comparatively small than the difference between a human who has an average IQ of 100 and an entity that could have an IQ equivalent of 1,000 or 1,000,000, right? We just don't know what this will mean. Number 7, current AI industry trajectory suggests a proliferation of AI tools that are both coming as open source and closed source system, and they are available to general public at very affordable prices. This is actually a very positive circumstance, given that we could have had all of that power concentrated within a particular single entity, whether it would have been a government or privately owned. At least we see this technology is being democratized and being made available to the general public. This is very good, but this also means that very soon everyone, everywhere, will have access to super intelligent capabilities and will be actively using that capability. We are entering the age of intelligence superabundance, where the cost of intelligence will be too cheap to meter. In a similar way that long distance minutes are no longer really metered, they're no longer a factor on your monthly cell phone bill. So that leads us to number 8. With superintelligence in abundance, there is no reason to believe that any future jobs that may be created will ever need humans to perform them. Vast majority of these future jobs could very well be performed better, faster, cheaper, and safer by this system of super intelligent entities. So as the result of all of the above, we do face a likely scenario that most human jobs that require knowledge and rely on our intelligence may soon be displaced at scale by these artificial intelligence systems that now possess the agency, automation, and autonomy, understand the context, have access to the required knowledge, and they can just perform those jobs. Now, there is one more important twist to mention. All of our experiences so far most of our experience so far is dealing with the digital version of artificial intelligence. What comes right after, or midpoint, should I say, is the robotics. So, as robotics advance in their own development in parallel, we will soon be in the midst of the robotic Cambrian explosion. Super intelligent, strong, dexterous robots that are coming in all shapes and all sizes, from those nanorobots that will be flowing through our bloodstream, finding and eliminating cancerous cells, to robots on wheels. You can think of robotaxis or self-driven semi-trucks, robots in flight, your drones, humanoid robots that are a perfect form factor to seamlessly fit into our existing physical infrastructure, and gigafactories that are themselves lights off fully automated robots that manufacture other robots effectively. Therefore, in addition to the intelligence work being threatened in the immediate to short term, we are also imminently facing both dexterity and intelligence being challenged in the mid to long term. So now we seem to be at the very beginning of this transition window, where we are starting to see early indicators of this impact, primarily with a slowdown of new recruitment, new hiring at junior and mid-career levels in those organizations that are core of our service and intellect-based economy. And then we are also starting to see initial layoffs within the large technology companies that are redirecting their capital from paying for human salaries to more AI infrastructure investments. These are only the initial steps. And this process is bound to pick up pace and intensity, which then raises the urgency to address this situation. So now I would like to speak a little bit about what drives this urgency. There are 6 factors that I would like to briefly comment on. First, the types of jobs that are at the highest risk of short to mid-term displacement are knowledge and intelligence heavy types of work. Typically, those are well-paid jobs. A loss of a well-paid job has a cascading negative effect, impacting not only the immediate family locally, but also those who depend on others' disposable income, from private schools to home cleaners, snow removers, travel agents, and then whole industries of tourism, leisure, entertainment. Number 2, given the vast proliferation and adoption of these general AI technologies, when such jobs disappear, they're likely going to disappear concurrently across the whole economy and over a relatively short amount of time, right? Whole trade crafts will become displaced and redundant. And those who made such trade crafts their professions will no longer effectively be employable in their fields, probably ever, right? Number 3, yes, there are indeed intelligence plus dexterity jobs that are available. Our trades, plumbers, painters, electricians, welders, people who actually make physical stuff and make our physical reality work. But the issue with those jobs in this context is twofold. First, there is only so many of these jobs to go around, and if we are expecting a massive influx of those who have been displaced from their knowledge work into the trades, then the trades jobs will feel the pressure, and there will be less of them, unless of course it is balanced with a massive government incentivized investment and private sector incentivized investment in reindustrialization of our economy. But also, as I mentioned a moment ago, the robotics explosion will ultimately be able to also perform all of those jobs eventually better, faster, cheaper, and safer. So, on a long enough horizon, these jobs are also likely to be displaced. Number 4, as of yet, there is no apparent new industry or new human job sector that is being created to potentially absorb the population that is displaced. There are only so many of the meaning economy and attention economy jobs to go around. There's only so many YouTube influencers, independent consultants, executive and life coaches, and yoga instructors that our society needs. And if we were in the horses business, in other words, we don't yet see what is that automobile industry that is supposed to be there to absorb the workforce in the future. So this time around, we actually seem to be missing that creative part of creative destruction concept. Number 5, it might come to a surprise to many Canadians to learn that a low-end estimate is that 45% of Canadians actually live paycheck to paycheck. What is even less obvious and appreciated is that this paycheck to paycheck scenario actually cuts across all social segments, from those who work for minimum wage, but also for those who have high income, because many of those with high income have equally high living expenses. So literally half of the population would face immediate economic challenge if they were to lose their source of income, even in month 1, or let's say month 2. And the last one, number 6, at the height of the Great Depression in 1933, the unemployment rate in the US peaked at 25%. And that was the darkest hour of the Great Depression. In other words, while 75% of the population were still employed, the nation was experiencing deep economic depression with rampant poverty and misery. Now, I'm not an alarmist. As I mentioned, I'm an optimist, and I'm confident that this radical automation will result in incredible new wealth and prosperity. We see the United States declaring its intent to win the global AI and automation race and reindustrialize itself for this future economy. Trillions are being invested in the expectation that tens and hundreds of trillions of new wealth will be generated. And this capability will proliferate across the world. So we are not at risk of not having sufficient economic success, but we are at risk of how do we divide this newly created wealth such that everyone in the society gets to benefit from it. So now we need to face the reality of a short-term disruption that we need to collectively go through in order to end up in that better state, the state of abundance, the life post-labor. This is the field of study of post-labor economics. How do we navigate this transition from our current labor-driven economy to the one that still works for everyone, but does not rely on human labor as its main economic input? If you are interested to learn more and join this conversation, please subscribe to this channel, as I intend to be talking to many people on this particular topic and delve deeper as we collectively try to look for, identify, and recommend solutions, both from individuals, families, but also for companies, municipalities, counties, provinces, states, and nations. If you'd like to start your own research and exploration, I invite you to join the movement. And I will also invite you and remind you to check out my good friend and colleague on this, David Shapiro. Subscribe to his research, join the movement, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.